Since becoming an entrepreneur and starting my own companies, the number one question I get asked from people is, how do I start a side hustle without getting fired or without triggering my boss? The short answer is you can't control what your boss or company does either way. Whether you start a side hustle or just lay low and do what the man says, you could get fired either way for no reason at all. Everyone is replaceable at someone else's company. That's not encouraging, I know, but that's not really what I want to talk about anyway. Fear not. I'm going to share with you today good advice, not just for side hustles, but for getting more of what you want out of life on a daily basis. This is the next simple step. I'm Paul Goldsmith. Everything in life is a trade-off. The water's hot, it's no longer cold. You get married, you're no longer single. And if you choose to pursue a new line of work, you must decide at some point if it's worth giving up your current gig to pursue the new thing. That is, if you work for someone else. In my case, since I have my own consulting company and have since opened a couple other businesses that have management within them, I'm able to do multiple things, but only one thing at a time. And I want to help you decide, because few things are black and white. And before you dive all in on a new thing, a word of caution. Maybe you could dip your toe in the water of the thing that you're thinking about doing with minimal risk, rather than assume, you have to pick one or the other. Is there a way to try before you buy? I had a full-time job before I started my consulting company. And the way I started was I just offered some free advice, some consulting on my own in an area that I knew something about, and it didn't conflict with my day job. I offered that free advice. It was taken. And at some point that turned into a paid opportunity. And then once I had a paying client, that gave me the confidence I needed to make a go for it. And I approached a second client, and when they expressed interest, I knew I could go out on my own. So I then proposed to my employer that I become a consultant to them at a fraction of the cost of what they were paying me as an employee. And they agreed. And so at that point, I officially became a full-time entrepreneur. Now, if they would have declined the offer, then I would have had to make the decision to find enough clients to replace my income and go, or stay at the company until I did have the replacement income. Everything is negotiable. And here's the key to getting what you want. It's having more options. In a word, it's having more leverage. Don't wait until your options are limited for you by an economic downturn, or maybe your company gets bought out by another company and your job gets eliminated, or maybe you just get a new boss and they want to bring in somebody else to replace you. Not your fault, but it happens all the time. I've witnessed all of those scenarios happen to friends in the past couple of years. So whether you're thinking about pursuing a new line of work, a side hustle or not, it's helpful to have leverage. You want to go ask for a raise. Leverage is going to help you do that, because to get leverage, you have to show your value. How much value are you bringing to the company? And I think this causes a lot of anxiety for people. Maybe you've experienced that anxiety where you want to try something, but you're afraid to ask, and that might cause an uncomfortable conversation. But maybe, just maybe, if you summon the courage to have the conversation, it wouldn't be an issue at all. Because sometimes you play this tape in your mind that isn't reality. That's just a story you're telling yourself. And as humans, we're always kind of looking for the danger, the threat. And you might be assuming there are dangers there that just aren't there. And everybody is just trying to figure out their own path. And for you to get what you want, you really have got to be clear about what you want long-term at the sacrifice of what you want short-term. That means having an uncomfortable conversation in the short term. You ever notice how many keyboard warriors there are out there that they will just say anything and everything on social media, but You run into them in person. They're very demure, very mindful. And it's like, where is this disconnect that when you're on the keyboard and behind a screen, you're so much bolder? And I'm not encouraging flaming people on the internet, but I also noticed a trend that people will have contentious conversations on the work Slack or in their email or via text because they don't have the courage necessarily to have it in person. And it causes more harm than good. There's always a trade-off. And when you have these challenging conversations via text, that there's so much context that's read into it that may or may not be there, you're always better off having those contentious conversations one-on-one with the individual that can then ask follow-up questions and you can have a dialogue. All progress starts by telling the truth. First to yourself, what do you really ultimately want? And who do you need to talk to have a difficult conversation with to take the next simple step? That's really the key to getting what you want, is first clarifying what it is, and then second, having difficult conversations as they arise and not stalling out and dreaming up every worst case scenario. You've had difficult conversations in the past. You can do it again. You can do hard things. Another example would be your health. Of course, you'd rather eat terrible food because it tastes good, but you don't because you're an adult and you realize that you want to have longevity. You want to be healthy. I don't know very many people that love going to the gym for the first time, but the people that end up going to the gym and making it a habit keep going because of what it does for them mentally and physically. And I really had this mindset shift during the pandemic and saw all these people being described as having comorbidities. And I thought that seems really horrible. And approaching my 40th birthday, I realized that as you age, your chances of getting severe illness and ultimately death increase. So better late than never to start adding muscle and resistance training and take care of my heart. The number one killer of Americans is heart disease. And so I actively run most days. I go to the gym 6 days a week, and my resting heart rate is 40 beats per minute. It's incredible. My body fat percentage in just 4 years went from about 24% to 7% today. And most importantly, I'm most proud of this, I added nearly 10 pounds of muscle mass. And I don't say this to brag. That's what can happen in just 4 years of powering through the discomfort of getting up every day and going to the gym at 5 a.m., going for a run even when I don't feel like it. You can do the same. And the reason I'm so obsessed with taking care of my health is because I have so many other visions and dreams of things I want to do. Not much else matters when you're sidelined by health issues. Being fit gives me leverage to ultimately do the things I really want to do in life. And it's not just be comfortable and never face resistance, because to enter the world, there's going to be resistance, but I want to be there for my kids and grandkids, be active and experience great experiences, but that comes with challenges and trade-offs. What is it you ultimately want? What does that mean you have to give up for now? What uncomfortable conversations do you have to have? Be courageous. I know you can do it. And the root word of courage, look it up, it means heart. Have heart. If you're facing something really challenging, to have courage just means you have love for yourself and what it is you're trying to accomplish for the love of others. And I hope that encourages you today to take that next simple step and to do what is required to ultimately do what you know you ought to do, to ultimately fulfill that dream that has long been brewing up inside of you. Take it one step at a time. Have those challenging conversations as they occur, not all in your head, but go out there and actively engage. You'll be amazed at what you're able to accomplish, of how far you'll get, and create more leverage in your life to do the things you want to do. If that's been helpful for you and you'd like to talk more, you can reach out at nextsimplestep.com or send me a direct message on Instagram and X. I'm Paul J. Goldsmith, and I'll talk to you next time on the next Simple Step Podcast.